Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Hello and welcome back to the Mobile Workforce Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Merrill, and today we had a fantastic conversation with Mr. Ryan Foland. Ryan is a craftsman of communication. He's an expert on personal branding, and not just related to your construction company, but to you as just another human being. Very sharp man, and has been a TEDx speaker, well-published. He's from University of California, Irvine, and a part of the Entrepreneur Center there. He's actually the director. So very, very well-spoken, and again, well-known for this topic of personal branding. So really hope you get some information here that's not only helpful for your business, but helps you in your personal life. I have a lot of great takeaways from today's conversation, and I know that you will too. So enjoy the episode. Well, thank you, Ryan, for joining us on the podcast today. Really excited for this conversation.
Ahoy, and it's so great to be here on this ship, this vessel, this cast of pod in which we're on.
Ahoy, that's a new greeting. I haven't heard that one yet here, so thank you for that.
You know, a funny backstory is that ahoy hoy was actually the first greeting that was through the telephone lines. That was like the standard. And then it was in competition with hello. And there was this battle that was going back and forth. And eventually hello won out. But the original connection digitally was ahoy hoy. And so I say ahoy, not ahoy hoy. But if you had to guess what I like to do if I'm not speaking or helping entrepreneurs, what do you think I would prefer to be doing?
Out on a boat somewhere, it sounds like to me.
Damn Skippy. And see, you know, there, my friend, is how one word, the first word you say actually is the first inclination. Actually, not the first, because whatever they see you or if they hear you, that's all part of it. But the first word that you choose to use, you have an opportunity to share with people more about you. So if you say hi, or if you say howdy, or if you say what's up, all of that, it all plays into the part. And I'm excited to dig into those pieces, especially for those in construction today who may be overlooking that part of the stucco. But when you zoom out and you look at the whole house, you're like, I see it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, you
can read it right off the gate here, just off of an ahoy.
Yeah, whether it was pre-engineered or not, I don't know. But all I know, it is fascinating.
We are on a quick-crete mix here. Nothing I come prepared with. I'm off the cuff, so I only have been really saying the same stuff for like almost the last 10 years. So it may seem, but it's all fresh here, coming off the tongue.
Love it. Beautiful. Well, thank you. You are, I won't even say self-proclaimed. I mean, you've been a TEDx speaker. You've been well-published, well-written, and an expert in the area of personal brand. So
yeah, well, let me clarify real quick. I am not self-professed. My strategy has been to just share what I've learned based on what has gone wrong. And as a result of that, people have learned how to maybe do things a little differently or not as I had done in the past that didn't work. And you do that enough, and some people will see you as an expert. So if you're out there going like, I'm an expert, then you're like, I don't know. But it's when you share your experience that you eventually get recognized for your expertise. And that's a core concept that I think is important for people to latch on to, because not everybody has expertise. And if you're out there trying to build a brand or build your name in the construction industry or whatever, there might be this tendency to be like, I'm an expert in this, but it's a lot better to be like, well, here's all of the stuff that I've done, and this is the stuff that didn't go right, and now I am actually have the most experience that I've ever had. And then when you see my work, you're going to be like, dude, you are an expert. And then you tell people, and that's how it works. It's a way of, personal branding is something that I'm excited to dig into, because there's a lot of misconceptions A lot of people skip over the small stuff that's super important. And at the end of the day, it's all the small stuff that adds up.
Yeah, I love that. Love that you pointed out it's not that you're self-proclaiming that, or, you don't have to lead with your resume or your designations or your degree. Let your personality and your actions speak for themselves. So that's a very important part of, I think, people's personal brand is not the megaphone, but maybe the magnet, right?
Yeah. The magnet inside of the speaker that you just continue to sort of share. And then people are drawn to maybe what you're saying, or maybe they resonate with your experience, or maybe they find something of value, and then they'll continue to gather around the speaker. And then there's just different platforms that have speakers on them.
Yeah. So back to kind of my initial question there. Why do you think our own personal brand, whatever walk of life, whatever it is, business, personal, in our circle of friends, in our community, in our place of worship, whatever it is, why is personal brand an important thing to be at least aware of?
Well, one, because you already have it. And if you're not aware of it, it just means that you're not participating in that brand narrative. Like the reality is you could substitute personal brand with the word reputation, and maybe people get it a lot quicker. Like, why is it important to have a reputation? And I would say the answer to that is, in today's day and age, people are going to look you up either before they meet you or after they meet you. Like, can we agree on that at least?
Yeah, no question.
So you're right there in the middle of it. And if you truly want to be authentic and be who you are and be showing up in the same way, so you're not having to like put on these different acts or play differently to different people, then if you give people what I call brand crumbs, just content, whatever form it is, these little crumbs, they're not like big loaves of bread, they're not pieces and they disappear over time and they get lost. But if you give people brand crumbs, if they search before, it gives them a chance to get to know you. And then the interaction of getting to know you, this live interaction, maybe you might like this interaction. Maybe we might vibe. And then that eventually leads to trust. And so a reputation will help people to get to know you. And if they like you, cool. If they don't like you, that's also cool. But if they get to know you and they like you, it leads to trust. And people want to do business with people who they know, like, and trust. Now, if you've never heard of me and we met, you're like, hey, that's interesting, and you go search me up online, whatever you find is going to reinforce or be in juxtaposition to what you just met. And if you go online and you don't see anything, then there's a missed opportunity for me to help you, I guess, get close to my magnet and microphone, or magnet and speaker.
So I love that you use the word crumbs. I think that's very visual for, the listeners can think about, crumbs it's evidence, right? It's a validation that bread was there, what happened with it. You could, where do the crumbs lead, right? There's
exactly.
Take from that, right?
And that's what happens. So somebody might search for a keynote speaker on something, and then they, in a list, might come up and see my name mentioned. And then they would click onto that and they'd see, whoa, what is this? Then they click and they see how to not get chased by a bear as a TEDx. And then they see over here this, and then over here. And it's like all these little breadcrumbs. And this is legitimately what happened yesterday. I was at an event here. It was an early morning event, 8 a.m. And I rolled up and I'm going through the door. And this lady kind of connects eyes with me as though like I knew her. That look like, hey,
yeah,
like,
sure.
good to see you. And I was like, hey, hi. Like, nice to see you. And I'm like looking in her name. I don't recognize her name and I don't recognize her face. And she's like, no, I follow you on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, awesome. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you in person. And that look in the eyes, she literally, she knows of me. She knows me. Like, and I'm pretty transparent on my LinkedIn. And like, I mean, I'm who I am and I create a lot of content. So that was I sat down and I was like, then I actually looked her up on LinkedIn and then sent her a message and said, it's really nice to meet you in person. So it's like this merging of worlds, but I was like, I don't know. Oh, you know me, that's cool. So like there's a vibe, there's a connection. And you don't know how many people are invisibly liking you. I've got stories for days, but I'll let you go back to your questions and I'll squeeze them in.
Well, I think, it reminds me of a funny story. It's actually probably the single funniest thing I've ever done. I try and be a humorous guy, but
that's a big R right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're going to like it. So I'm a best man at one of my friends' weddings, one of my buddies from high school. And I don't know, 90%, 95% of the people coming through the line. So me and the other best man, there were two of us, we started kind of playing games with the people that were coming up in the line because we didn't know him from Adam, right? So
yes.
So his uncle Doug comes up, and I know his name's Doug because he's got it on his big old cowboy belt buckle. So I said, watch this. So Doug comes up to the line, and I greeted him with the loudest, most just warm and friendly, Doug, how you doing, man?
Verbal Doug.
And he looked at me like a blank stare, and he's like, okay, I know you from somewhere. And he just sits there trying to place my face, and he's just got nothing. And I said, Doug, and I kind of gave him this yearning, like, come on, Doug, tell me you remember me, and he's like, I just can't remember you. And I said, Doug, it's okay, buddy. I just read your belt buckle. Anyway,
I don't know. Wait. Let's check this out real quick. That is hilarious, by the way.
Yeah.
Tell me, because you didn't know Doug from Doug, right?
Nope.
Didn't know.
Mm-mm.
What was your what was your impression based on what he looked like, including a belt with the name on it? Like, what came to mind about him?
I just thought he's a good old boy, cowboy, just one of those guys, just a good blue collar fella. Yeah. I judged him.
Doug, did you get to meet him at all? Did you spend any quality time, or did he reinforce positive or negative around that?
Absolutely. I had the whole vibe when he was 30 feet away, and I already knew kind of how that was going to go based on
his reputation preceded him. Yeah. His reputation preceded him, and you put social signals all the time. Like, I mean, it's not. There's a fine line. Like, if you're going to a gala, right, you're going to doll up, and you're going to put social signals that you understand the setting. You're in your best suit, you're doing your best. But if you're like going to a house party, you're also just like dressing, social signaling for the occasion of like who you are and what you represent. So you may be in a suit one day and you may have a belt buckle and a cowboy hat the other day, but there is a consistency the way you show up, and everybody proverbially has their name on their belt buckle, and that is a clothing brand crumb. So, going back to like why would this matter? Like, do you want to be hired as a construction worker? Do you want to get the bid? Do you want to get the job? Do you want to, have a crew that's transparent and authentic? Do you want to have good working relationships? Do you want like all of these things? They're judging you by your belt buckle when you are when you walk on the first day. So it's as important as, I would say, like your identity or self-conscious, or like your, I want to go deep and say your consciousness, not your unconscious.
Sure.
But a brand,
it's shining through. It's shining through, no question about it. So and I've got to imagine, I'm just going to guess that you may have read the book Atomic Habits already.
I had. Is that with the duct tape, or is that
It's James Clear.
Oh no, it's yellow. It's got the big like bicycle thing on it in the front.
Yeah. So Atomic Habits with James Clear is, we read it in a family book club with my kids. We've read it at book club here at work a couple times. I love that book. And I remember the first time I read that book, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, this is my book. Like, this guy is like, James Clear is literally looking through my brain and how I like
decoded
to make it function, but he's put it into this elegant way and description and examples of exactly how I like to try and tick. And he talks about, even if we aren't that person we want to become, we don't have or haven't built the reputation, credibility that we want to, that by taking small steps and making choices and taking small micro atomic, all the way down to the atom level decisions that lead us towards that thing that we want to become, we are now leaving evidence, even for ourselves, that even if we're not the kind of person that's organized, we are doing things that an organized person would do, and that over time, if we continue to chip away at that, we will eventually become an organized person and we can actually change our identity.
Yeah. I have a few things to say on that. One, make your bed every day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Number two, we're always looking for these hacks and apps to shorten the time or the distance for us to get from where we are and to where we want to be. Successful people, and you can actually substitute this. So successful construction workers, successful foremen, successful business developers, successful commercial real estate, whatever you want. Successful people are not doing what everyone else cannot do. Successful people are doing what everyone can do, but not everyone does. They go to bed early. They wake up, they work out, they drink water, they're healthy, they listen, they smile more, they take care of themselves, they pay it forward. Like, everyone has the physical ability, like even across economic statuses, to like go to bed early and wake up early and like make small decisions and make these atomic decisions that line up. Same thing for a brand. A brand isn't like, oh, I need to build a brand in 30 days. It's like, no, I need to get into the habits to start recognizing stories that are valuable to share with people so that I can help other people through my experience. And you do that enough in one lane and you'll eventually be seen as an expert. So I love that. You know, you'll also like Limitless. Do you know about Jim Quick?
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah. Yeah.
Because he breaks down the habits as well. And like,
I heard Jim's on recently. Yeah. It was awesome.
It's the simple stuff that is so powerful, but you can't confuse simple with easy. And the more simple it seems, usually the harder it is. And that's why Kobe Bryant shot 10,000 free throws. And that's why some of the people that you think of iconically, you see them on the stage, you see them swinging the club, you see them hitting the puck, but you don't realize all of the day-to-day work and grind that goes on behind the scenes. And to build a personal brand, it's not even building, it's just claiming and helping to like steer the ship a little bit this, a little bit that. Our lives change, you change. It's a fluid sort of thing. But if you're not conscious that it exists and you're not taking advantage of the benefit of building a strong, trustworthy reputation, then you're just missing out. You're not letting people get to know you as fast as they could before, during, or after they meet you.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think gets in the way for a lot of people, I mean, I've fallen victim to this at times, maybe you have too. I've heard people talk about this term imposter syndrome, where people are, it's like their brain decides, oh, wait a minute, I don't actually belong here. When they start to get some evidence that they're making headway or gaining traction or these changes are actually starting to take place, they find themselves in this place where they feel like,
why am I qualified? I'm a nobody. I can't do this. Why would somebody want to listen to me?
Right. So what do you say about that? Well, how can people work through that and get past that?
I think this taps into fear of putting yourself out there. I think it taps into the fear of opening up, and some might call it vulnerability, but let's just say like sharing a little bit deeper than surface level. And if we look at answering that question of imposter syndrome around fear, I think we can stitch this together, because imposter syndrome is you not feeling like you deserve to be seen as an expert in a certain field. And the easiest way to be seen as an expert is to have legitimate and documented and verified experience. And experience is what you get just after you need it, right? You if you had the experience, then that thing wouldn't have happened to you. But it's because that thing happened to you that you now got the experience. So I believe that fear is our own body's self-regulatory system to not die, right? And to protect ourselves. But if you think about it, fear is a direction that when you move towards, you actually have an advantage over. And I'll share two examples from the animal kingdom, which I think is interesting, because we're all animals at the end of the day. Buffaloes on a plane.
I was just going to ask you about this before, but you went there on your own, so go. Let's hear.
No, you know about the buffaloes? Buffaloes have a squall coming.
I love this.
All right, this is easy. Maybe you don't know the next one, but tell me what direction the buffaloes run, into or away from the storm?
Right into the storm.
Right into it, because the net time in the storm is less because they're moving in opposite directions. Now, do you know about how lions hunt?
Share with us.
Okay. Well, first of all, most people think, well, it's actually not the lions, it's the lionesses, because the lionesses are the ones that do the actual work. But what happens is that the lions themselves, well, they identify like a herd that they want to have for lunch, right? A lion will go upwind into a place that's an elevated spot and roar and be like, "Rawr, I'm a lion, watch out, rawr, rawr, rawr." And his scent will come down with the wind. And all of the lunch plates are like, holy crap, there's a big lion up there. And it smells like he's that direction. Guys, that's the scariest thing ever. Let's run the other way. And they run right into where all of the lionesses are waiting for them. And it's like, if they would have just run into what is fearful, it's like, with fear and risk comes reward. But if you just stay still, the storm's going to attack you. If you don't move, they're still going to eat you. And I like to share with people, like, the fear. There's Brian Fanzo. He's a friend, and he has a lot of experience in social media, and he's seen as an expert. He has this whole concept around push the damn button. Like, push the damn button. What's going to happen? Like, you push it. It's like, shaky finger, push it. People are going to judge me. No. And then it gets out there and people are like, blink, blink, blink. Did that happen to you too? Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing. And there's one troll like, you're an idiot. And then it goes back to whatever. And you're like, wow. And then somebody shares that. And then somebody shares that and shares that. And then somebody follows you over here and you're like, what is happening? People aren't judging me. They might relate to me. They're getting to know me. And then fast forward that over years and people ask you to speak and ask you to be on their shows, and somebody will say, write a book. And like, it's just different forms of taking the crumbs and turning them into more substantial sandwiches to then hand out for people for food for thought. Boom. How's that?
So what got you leaning into this? What was it? Was it a fear of this itself and you overcoming that journey and saying, oh my gosh, I've unlocked the code?
It was me trying to take the best advice that was available to me at the time, which is fake it till you make it. And dude, I bought a Rimini red Range Rover with Rimini red 22-inch rims, and her name was Rachel Rover. And at the same time, I splurged on a Mercedes SL 500, the hardtop champagne. Her name was Sally. And I had the suits, and I could not afford them, but I was promised that you have these things and people will levitate towards you. And I was in the mortgage business, and I was selling mortgages, and I was living all of this stuff. And I was like, this is great. And then got humbled real quick in 2008. Led all the way to actually not having the money to file for bankruptcy, borrowing it from my parents, doing all the work myself, mailing in my application for bankruptcy, which is probably like, if you've ever been there, you know, it's like, it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe. And a big pill to swallow. And 2 weeks later, I came back and there was this huge chunk of thing in the mail. I'm like, wow, they move very fast. Like, I thought it would be a while. And it was my bankruptcy application. And it was the one that I sent with return to sender because I was 32 cents short on postage. I was like, holy crap. Right? And it was a moment in time where I was like, I kind of get a second chance at this. And I need to be a little bit more fiscally responsible. And I need to probably be a little bit more upfront and honest with what's really going on. And maybe this whole thing doesn't really work. And so I even after that, there was a few times where I got caught back up into that same thing and started to make more money. And it was really a series of events over a few years that kept hitting me in the face going, that's not working. You're not getting traction doing that. And when I recognized this, it actually has to do with a pimple on one of the biggest stages that I was at, and my fear around a pimple that helped to completely change me and be like, that's it. Like the pimples in lives and the things that go wrong in lives is really where the learning is. And that's where people are not drawn to or like connect with your story of success. If anything, like it could be inspirational, but sometimes you're like bitter. You're like, damn, like that person did it and I didn't. I'm older than them and I look, but I believe and I found and I know people care more about how they see themselves in your story. And if you read, I want to be on Fortune magazine and you read those articles, these people are like, this has not been easy. This has been harder than hell and things have been terrible. And then I got divorced and then I almost lost this. Then I had lost my friend to suicide. Like all of these crazy life moments, just like the dribbling and the practicing behind the scenes, like that is what makes us who we are. And so once I started to end up calling ditching the act, when somebody asked me how I'm doing, you asked me this morning how I'm doing, I just like, bah, here's how I am, exactly. Like I wasn't like, oh, I'm good, thanks, how are you? And then that creates a thread for you to connect to and things like that. So for me, I had a series of these pivotal moments where faking it did not work. And when I sort of was able to be comfortable, confident, and take the risk and head into that fear and be like, oh, I'm actually not doing that great. And no, I'm not as experienced as I am. And I'm not the expert, but I here's my other unique spots. And here's how I show up. And here's the content I create. What do you think? I started to get traction, started to get followers. I started for it to all work. I mean, I've got 400,000+ followers on different platforms. I've been featured in all these magazines, 4 TEDx talks, spoken around the world on all these stages, verified on all platforms. And none of that would have happened if I didn't find the magic trick to just be like, yeah, I'm going to be myself more often and show up a little quirky, kind of high energy, proud of being a ginger, and being like, yeah, this is what you get. And those who resonate with my vibe, they get to know me, they like me, they trust me, and they hire me, and they continue to read my content, and they engage in my community, and they help to support me when I'm down. And it doesn't just happen in a blink, but it could. But when you realize that being authentic allows you to show up in a way that you have more fun, even when you're not having fun, you have more support. I've just felt more stable than ever, just being who I'm at, where I'm at the moment. And this goes to these little habits over time. I've been doing this for like 10 years strong, and I'm still seeing the benefits and the fruits of all this labor because all the brand crumbs line up. And I'll stop with this. We'll see where we want to go. But somebody might hear this and be like, oh, but I haven't even started, and how am I going to do this? And I don't have 10 years. The best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. The best time to start a personal brand or be more active in it was 25 years ago. And the best second time to start or claim or participate in your reputation is now. And so it's all about who ends up being consistent for the longest, not about who starts. It's about not even finishing, because it's a lifelong journey.
Well, back to what you said earlier, I know you're talking about being authentic and, showing up as you. It's like if you've got all these other things, these material things, or this status, or these followers, or whatever clout or credibility you may have at the public eye, but if when you pull into your garage at night, you go in your home and you try and be a fake dad or a fake husband, or like, that's not going to work. And what a miserable existence that is if you're literally living 2 lives because you've got to put this front on and the mask and live up to the expectation here, but then you go home and you can't even be yourself. Or if you do, you don't like yourself, right? You're seeking that validation externally instead of with those that you love and who you should be building this life for, right?
And dude, think of all the crazy examples, the real life examples of people who looked like they had their shit together, people who looked like their company was fundable, people who looked like they were doing things legitimately. And time after time, there is this double, triple, sometimes quadruple persona. Like, we love watching all these like documentaries about these literally, like, I mean, my wife likes the murder mystery stuff, but like there's documented evidence of all these people who at one point, like, oh, they're so successful, they're running this crazy company and raising billions of dollars, and then under, they're crazy drug addicts, or they have these crazy addictions, or they're murdering people behind the scenes, or like they're miserable, and like they're all losing their wives and their homes and their everything. And what you'll see is that once that happens, once the skeletons are out of the closet, there's this huge disruption. And then those that basically like Matthew Perry and be like, yeah, guys, I fucked up. I'm an alcoholic. This is really terrible. I need help with it. Then people are like, I love you now, because you're actually the total messed up drunk that I knew you were from the beginning, and I'm here to help you. How can I help you now? And that's the thing. If you don't show up authentically, you will never get the help that you need.
And now he's not here to be helped.
But in his own way, like, imagine the disservice to him, his life, and his legacy if nobody ever knew that and everybody just thought, oh, his life was great. But now when people see or read or hear or understand, they're like, that dude had some addiction problems. I'm going to maybe think or reflect of how I can help to avoid that, or how I can reach out for help or support or community, or maybe I should go to rehab. And like, all this stuff is like important because it really impacts your life. I love this idea of getting into the garage. When you get to the garage, if you have a garage, you shut the door, turn off the keys. What is that? What is that moment? And yeah,
comes out of the
dad,
car?
is it?
Who comes out of the
Yeah,
car?
who gets out of the car? That's good. I like that. That's a great visual, because there is so much pressure of making it seem like you have your shit together, but there's so much more relatability when you actually admit like how things actually aren't working out as well. And then you're like, oh, I thought it was just me. No, dude, it's not you. Well, what are you doing to solve that? I don't know. I'm confused. Well, maybe we could help each other. Maybe, let's talk about this. And I think for construction individuals, there's this hard persona, and there's this like literally hard-headed with a freaking hat, with a hard hat on. And it's like, there's machismo and there's macho, but like those dudes are people too, and they have emotional challenges and issues. But when we all bottle it up, then it comes out in unhealthy ways. And then you have a few more drinks and you end up driving, and then you end up doing something stupid and your whole life changes. And you're like, that's not me. That wasn't me. It was shit. It was me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. This is great. This is really good dialogue, healthy to have. And I think, you giving permission from your platform for people to, get back to the core of who they are, what their real goals are, what they're focused on, being authentically themselves, and then also letting them know that it's okay to do that. Like I remember I was at a parade when I was, I used to think I wanted to get into politics when I got older. I've done a little bit of that. I can't stomach it anymore. Just the climate, the environment, just how it is. Like I want to find a way to make a difference in other ways and in other places than that platform. But I remember, the governor of the state coming by on the parade, and they're out throwing candy, and I'm telling my father-in-law, hey, there's the governor. This, and he's like, so? And I'm like, so? What do you mean, so? And he says, well, he puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like I do. And I thought, that's an awkward response. Like, what? I'm thinking, you have no respect for the governor. But now that I'm 50, I realize, oh, I see what he's saying. He's saying, okay, that's fine. He's a governor, whatever, right? Like, all of us, you peel the layers off, you peel the skin off, you peel all the other things. Like, at our core, we're human beings trying to have a good experience, trying to provide for our families, trying to build some lasting memories, try to, be healthy and vibrant and have an exciting life that's fulfilling and means something and leave a legacy. And so, some people ask, here's what these other things, but
yeah, well, I love what you just said. In that last part, I think is where it goes into this weird loop back into the challenges, because you want to be healthy, you want to do these things, you want to be successful, you want to leave an impact, you want to have these memories. So it makes us think, well, then if I don't have a good day, or things don't go right, or if I am not myself, then I should just hide that, bottle it up, and put it away. But truly, the way to make a legacy, or the way to be successful, or the way to be healthy, is to first admit that you haven't gotten your ass to the gym in 3 years in the first place. And then somebody would be like, are you kidding me, dude? Well, I got a guest pass. You can come with me tomorrow. What do you mean? Yeah, let's go, dude. And now you're like, it's because it's those moments where you, quote unquote, ditch the act and say the real thing or what you're really feeling. It opens up this window for people to actually help out. And I think that is how we all can help ourselves build these legacies and these memories. But when you don't let somebody know you're hurting, how can they help you? And then it's immediately inauthentic. So the one thing to practice this, because it's not easy, dude. It's not easy for a man's man. My dad's a man's man. Like, it's not easy being in touch with I've had so many unhealthy pops, like, over the history of time. I'm like, oh, that's because I was not acknowledging my feelings for a long time, and it just blew up unhealthy. But the thing is that going back to your atomic habits, the smallest microcosm that you can ditch the act in the safest way possible to start to see the benefits, and then you'll start to want to do it more. when somebody asks you, because this happens every single day, how are you doing? Maybe it's your wife. How was your day? Maybe it's your coworker. Dude, what's up? How was your weekend? Hey, how was that podcast you're going to be on? People check in and ask you, and 99.999% of the time, you give the answer that you think they want to hear, or the answer that is like, oh, it's good. Or if they're like,
living the dream.
Yeah, it's a dream, yeah. You know, Sunday, fun day, like, yeah. But like, maybe you were all hungover on Sunday. But watch this. How was your weekend, dude? Well, Sunday fun day became more of a Monday morning tragedy, and I feel like death. And they would be like, oh my God, you too? I'm feeling the same way, man. And then like that's it. So when you go first, it gives people the permission to go second. And look at like examples in real life. Some of these, like, you know, people who so tragically have been like sexually abused or have been like, you know, assaulted, or something's happened to them, and they just want to hide. And then they all don't say anything. But when it's one or two brave women or somebody who comes up and says, you know what, this happened to me and that person did it, and I'm going to stand up. And then boom, 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 boom. It gives everyone else the permission to come forward. So if you, at the level, the atomic level, when somebody says, how are you doing? If you're tired, tell them you're tired. If you're frustrated, tell them you're frustrated. If you're stressed out, tell them you're stressed out. If you're feeling good, tell them you're good. If you're feeling great, tell them you're great. But what you'll see is that you're not always great. You're oftentimes tired. And when you share that, people will be like, they will be more relaxed, because then they have permission to share that they couldn't sleep because their kid was sick last night. Oh, your kid's sick too? Shit, that's going around. Damn it. What are you doing? What medicine? Just do. Oh, okay. We should have played it like
relatable.
When they get well.
Be relatable, yeah. Yeah.
Or I was going to say, how do you spell relatable? Relatable?
Is it real-atable?
That's what I was just trying to think.
I think it's REL. I don't know if it should be real.
Maybe I'm going to spell it a different way.
That's funny.
Yeah, we'll have to know right now. Yeah.
I think one of the things that you know, I mean, you've used the word a lot. You know, authentic. I always think, when I hear authentic, I think of integrity. I think when we're out of integrity, we're not in balance. Like, there's something that's just not right. And we've all been in situations where you can walk into a room, or you can see a situation that you really don't know a lot of the details of what's going on, but just like Doug's belt buckle, like something's off here, right? And I think when we're not being our authentic selves and we're out of integrity, I think people can feel it. Even if they don't consciously know it, they feel it. And so
they pick it up in the microcosms in your face.
Whatever it is, that vibe, whatever it is, right? And
have you read the book? Have you read Blink?
I have. Yep.
That is fascinating, because literally in the blink of an eye, you've already made a decision based on all that stuff. And you're pretty accurate at the end of the day. So like, we're so intuitive as humans, and we forget how intuitive other people are. So just very back to, hey, Ryan, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. Are you sure? Like, are you sure you're good? Like, there's something, right?
How good? How good?
No, I'm fine. Seriously, dude, do you need to talk? No, I'm fine. No, it's okay. I'm fine.
Yeah,
like, no, you're really not okay.
Right. So with all of the audiences you've spoken to, all of the different feedback loops that you've received, with all of the, just that feedback, what do you feel like is the main? I mean, what's the one piece of advice that you think would be most helpful to the listeners to say, okay, you know, if I could solve this one thing or improve this a little bit, it's going to put me on a trajectory or get me on a path or open my eyes to more improvement that's out there for me?
I have to say, it's create brand crumbs.
Brand.
Now,
it's not breadcrumbs.
Now, technically, it's creating content, right? But it doesn't even have to be content. And there are so many exciting tools and AI ways that you can get your thoughts and your ideas and your stories out there. But a brand crumb could be when somebody you're hanging out, like, share with them a story, or like that story that you share with the belt buckle. Like, how fun to share that with people. It actually shares a lot about you. You became the most animated on the show that I've seen you. You probably busted out the mic when you were screaming.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was so much in that. It was entertaining. It was fun. There's a takeaway. I know I'm, going to look at belt buckles a little bit more now. But that story, probably, however many times we may connect in the future, that story, that brand crumb that you left me here live in the show is like a fun brand crumb. And that really showcased you and your personality. Like, you came out of your shell and you were fun and it was engaging, a great storyteller, like all the details. I was super into it. And so, like, you can leave brand crumbs with, parents at your PTA meeting when you're giving a talk and maybe you're sharing something. It's like, it doesn't have to be content in the form of a tweet or an Instagram post or a LinkedIn post. It actually works really well if that's where you feel comfortable doing it. But give people little chances of getting to know you. And that's it. Like, if you just do that, your reputation will build. People will describe you in a certain way behind your back when you're not there. People will learn about the things that you like to do. I talk about sailing all the time, and people know that I'm into sailing, and so many opportunities for sailing have shown up in my life. They'll be like, Ryan, you got to meet this dude. Why? He's a sailor. And then and I've got a sailing podcast, and I know how to interview them. And I've got 3 podcasts actually, if people are interested. Yeah. So I suggest, this is a tail end of the question. If you're going to create brand crumbs around things that you actually love and have passion for, because then it's not miserable. And then it's not your job to create content. You're not fulfilling some other marketing plan. This is like stuff that you like to do, which is energizing. So I love to sail. So I partner with a 40-plus-year-old magazine that's a print magazine out of San Francisco called Latitude 38. And the podcast is called Good Jibes. We're over 100 episodes, and I get to speak with West Coast sailors around the world. I have so many fascinating, crazy stories. Unbelievable. So if you're into sailing, the lessons you learn from sailing is just like any other life intense sort of something or other. I love to speak, and I acknowledge that I needed to learn a lot. So 6 something years ago, as a result of a TEDx LA project, I launched the World of Speakers podcast. I've spoken with over 100 speakers and literally saying, tell me your story, tell me your best advice, and tell me how you make money. Like, that's what I've learned, is just talking with them. And then I love core messaging, because if you can't explain who you are or what you're all about or what integrity is to you or what you want to be known for, then it's hard to create brand crumbs. So I've created this method called the 313 that explains what you do in 3 sentences, 1 sentence, and 3 words. Like a little series of cascading Russian dolls, but with who you are, what do you do, or what does your business do? So people, I use that, people pay me to go through that process, and I put on workshops, work with companies, but individuals also can just do it live on my show. So it's like a live coaching session where everybody gets to hear, and it works for me because people see it. And every time it's fascinating to have people come in like, I know how to explain my business. Here we go. And I'm like, all right, well, how about you tell me this? And it's like, wait, what? So again, my brand crumbs, I have a speaking podcast brand comes, and I love to speak, and people know me as a speaker. I have a podcast around sailing, and I love to sail, and I get to talk about sailing, and their brand crumbs around sailing. I like to consult with businesses to help them be more effective at sharing their ideas and who they are, because you can have the best idea in the world, but if you can't explain it, it's not the best idea. These are the things that I like to do. And so podcasts are just brand crumbs. This is brand crumbs for you. People who are your listeners, they know you because I can tell you're authentic. You're showing up, you're asking questions, you're getting deep, you're reading books. And here's where I'll leave with this, and we can see where else you want to ask. I had somebody on my podcast, speaking podcast, and she talked about how she overheard her dad say a quote that changed her life. And it sort of indirectly has changed mine. She heard her dad telling somebody, you know what the difference is between you now and in 10 years? It's the books you read and the people you meet. And so for the rest of it, she became an avid reader and became an avid networker. And I swear that is like the secret to her success. And so it's like the people you meet, these are all little brand crumbs that they do. Those are the people. And the books you read, books are just a bunch of brand crumbs. So if you want to do anything, leave behind a trail of who you want to be known for. And remember, you're leaving them behind. So as your new experiences come, you keep leaving them behind. And that's the simplest piece of advice I can do. And so I help people come up with the breadcrumbs. I help them find these mundane stories that they don't see have any value. And I show the lessons and how it helps people to know who they are and the lessons that are learned. And there's a magic science in there. And now that GPT is allowing you to build your own GPT models, because Sam Altman released that just recently in their latest developer meeting. Watch out for the watch out for the Ginger GPT and watch out for the 313 GPT, where I'm going to take all of my data, all of my information, and allow you to get that same authentic experience, because I've done it so many times in so many ways. For me to help more people is to I only have so much physical time. And so my excitement is creating breadcrumbs on the mass, right? Like,
Yeah.
and building those loaves and building the bread for food for thought.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, my encouragement to listeners is every single one of us have a God-given ability, skills, talents. We're here for a reason. And we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our families to figure out what that is. And as you do that and become your authentic self, and you open that up and share it with the world, you'll begin to find out what that purpose is. That purpose will fuel you. And just like, Ryan and I on this call today, talking about how we're tapping into our authentic selves and becoming and getting better habits and evolving into our greater self so we can serve those that we love and have a great experience. That's the key to you finding out what that purpose is for you. And it's in the process of experiencing that we learn and grow and get to that higher plateau where eventually you can see more and more and more. What you find is there's more Everest beyond Everest. I don't think there's any mountain that can't be climbed if we're willing to put the work in and figure out what that is. So, to Ryan's example, I mean, be brave and be bold and be you and be vulnerable so that you can allow that to continue to evolve and let your light so shine, right?
And Matt, I'm going to go possibly on a limb here. This is just what I'm feeling in my heart. I'm not a religious guy. Nature is my religion. And I'm now, as I was listening to you, I'm thinking, and again, this is probably from a bit of ignorance because I'm not super, I'm not super knowing of all the core. But my understanding is that, like, people sin, and sins for the most part are things that go wrong. Either you make bad decisions or things you get caught up in bad decisions and bad things happen. And you could sort of relate sins are usually bad things happen, right? Or it's associated with something didn't go right.
The result of a poor decision. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that God, once you get in front of it and be like, this is what I did, I'm sorry, I want to repent, or, use the beads or do whatever, or say Hail Mary or whatever that may be, like at a certain point, like, hey, do you feel better now that you've gotten in front of that, you'd admitted it, and you shouldn't do that again, right? That would be the virtuous thing to do. And you're like, okay, good. And so people are out there making mistakes. And at a certain point, if religion is something that makes them feel that calling and that sort of that ability to find the Everest and above Everest, like, you're literally just ditching the act with God to let them or it or she or they know, like, that was what I didn't know. I now have experience. And if you can be cool with me, I'll do my best to continue on. And we're human and we're fallible and we keep tripping. But it's the desire to want to do better that only can happen if you ditch the act with God. I've never said ditch the act with God, but I'm going out on a limb. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, that's well stated. And I think for no matter what people's belief system is, I think they all believe in a greater good. I think we all believe that doing good things is positive and doing bad things is negative, right? Harming others.
But the system sets up for the negative things. Like,
right.
You have to get in front of them, or you have to admit them, or you have to acknowledge them to work through them to get on the other side of it, right?
Yeah, and I think most people would also agree that as they do those things that they truly feel good about, they don't feel like they're taking away from others, but they're actually adding and sharing and growing, expanding. That's a better experience. And I think your message of being your authentic self, being okay with being fallible, and and just working towards being your better self. And then being willing to share that with others in the hopes that you will serve them, and in serving them, it will in turn serve you back, because those people are going to validate that limb that you went out on and say, you know what, I've been the same place, or I've been there before too. Let's help each other and get off of this limb more safely, right? And then it feels good. You get a dopamine hit. You feel invigorated. You feel more purpose. And now you want to go do it again and say, gosh, there's probably people all kinds of places that could use this kind of help. And now we live more of a life of service, or of meaning, so to speak. And I think whether that's on a construction project and doing the work because you love helping people, or you like building things or creating something, or you're proud of the quality that you put into it, whatever that is, that growth, that progress, that achievement, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's applicable all the way across. That, let's be in integrity. Let's try and leave this world and this planet better than we found it. Let's make it a better place because we were here. I don't think there's anybody out there that would say, that's a pretty terrible way to live.
I would hope not. There probably is, but we don't have to be concerned with them. They'll come around full circle eventually.
That's right. Well, Ryan, it's been a lot of fun. We'll have to have you on again. I think there's a lot more layers to this onion that we can unpack on one episode.
Well, we've got a good foundation and construction talk, right?
I agree. I think I'm
set some studs up and go from there.
Yeah. So how do people find your book? Where can they connect with you? What's a good way for them to learn more about your message?
Yeah. So the book is called Ditch the Act, published by McGraw-Hill Business. You can get it at any Barnes & Noble, and you can, if you're lazy, just go to Amazon. That's an easy spot there. If you want to connect with me and learn more about me and consume some brand crumbs, all you have to do is know my name. And my name is Ryan. And if you want to find me online, then you go to ryan.online and you find me. Super simple. But I'd love to add you to my community and have you share in the, could I even say tiding with the breadcrumbs? Is that too bad of a brand halo there?
It's fine. All good.
And then just for fun, if you don't mind, I have an idea of how I can sort of wrap this all up.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hear it.
Here is the deal. Let me give it to you real. The key to connection is to learn to reveal, because you are not perfect and neither am I. And that is the exact reason that we see eye to eye, because everybody's different, but we are all the same. To be perfectly imperfect is how you win the game. And if you only showcase good and do not share the bad, then you will miss connections that you never knew you had. Facegram, Twitter, book, are you LinkedIn? Are you snapping out of TikTok trying to fit in? Stop being like everybody else. Focus on being your authentic self, because when you learn to ditch the act and learn to be yourself, you open up a window to have people help you out.
Mic drop. Boom. Love it. Well said. Or sung. Wrapped. That's a wrap. Literally.
That's a wrap. There we go. That's a wrap.
All right. Thanks, brother. We'll connect again down the road. And again, thanks for sharing with our audience today. I know it'll help.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited about that. It was a fun time.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today, or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.